Good evening, everyone. Tomorrow's Parsha Shiur will not be on the Parsha, but it'll be rather about Shemitah, which is Abo Aleinu L'Tova, 5782. So tonight, just a few more remarks about Parshas Nitzavim. The Torah describes for us Moshe in the covenant. He describes the destruction that is wrought upon the land of Israel itself. Gofris v'melach streifo kol arzo lo sizora lo sitzana. The country will be devastated. It'll be sulfur and salt. You go to the region where Sdom was today, near the Dead Sea. It's all mineral deposits. Nothing can grow, even when it's nurtured with water. There are parts of the Negev desert and the Judean desert that when it's nurtured with water, you can grow things there. But where the area of the Yam HaMelech is, there nothing grows because of the mineral deposits that exist within the earth. So the fate of the land of Israel will be that Gofris v'melach. It'll be that nothing can grow there. And therefore, the nations of the world that see this, a stranger, a non-Jew that comes from afar, doesn't know anything about it, and he just sees the country. So he will say, what is the source of this anger that somehow transforms this place into a desert? Now, the Ramban points out, the Ramban is really remarkable. The Ramban was here in 1267. So that's 750 years plus. When the Ramban is in the country, the Crusaders are leaving because the country cannot support the 2,000 or 3,000 Crusaders that have existed here. And the Ramban writes about the Churban, that the whole country is one great Churban. And he says, Kol HaKodesh Mechaveiro Yoseh Choruv Mimenu. Anything that once was holier is now more desolate. You know, Yerushalayim is the most desolate of all the places. The Har HaBayis is certainly the most desolate. It's really one of the, to me, one of the most unimaginable events in Jewish history. What if we were able to have the Ramban here today? Walking on Rehov Ramban. Worse, having to drive his automobile on the Ramban. What would be his impression? That after 750 years of desolation, all of a sudden, look at this. But the Ramban never despaired. So the Ramban said it's going to happen. He did not give it a timeline, nor did he describe how it would happen. He just said it would happen. And therefore, as it has happened, so that's what's involved in the pasuk. That's what he says in this week's parsha. Anochri asher yovo me'eretz rechoka. He will be the one that'll say nothing can happen here. He will be the one that will say mechori af hagadol hazeh. He's the one that will only see gofris from Mela Sreifo Kol Artso. But the loyal Jew, the believing Jew, will not despair. So in the destruction wrought upon the country lies the kernel of its rebirth. And it's interesting that the Churban made the country uninhabitable for everybody. If it would have been a beautiful green country, fertile and having everything in it, so no one would ever give up their right to it. But because of the fact that it was Gofris from Melach, straight for Kolarzo, because of the fact that the world deemed it worthless. In 1898, the American author and humorist Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain, spent the year touring the world. One of the places he toured was the Holy Land. Now, he was an agnostic. He opposed all religion. Some of his most famous sarcastic essays are about sermons that the preachers would deliver. But he writes about what the land of Israel looked like. He said, there is no place in the world less desirable than this place. And he says, if that's the Holy Land, I don't want to be part of it, if that's what it's going to look like. A century later, if he would visit it again, he also would have a different opinion. And to realize that all of this happened in a short period of time and in a very unexpected manner would certainly at least pique our interest. I was preparing the part of the words about Shemitah. So there are poskim who said in the 16th, 17th century that we really shouldn't spend much time on it because there's no fruit in there to show, no vegetables, no wheat. So it's really, it's not Nogeya. It's not relevant. And again, the fact that Shemitah has become so relevant is only one of the signs of the beneficence of Hashem towards us and towards our time. So that lies in the description of what happened to the land. Because if the land would not have been Chorev, then the process of the redemption would have had to take a completely different course. One other point regarding the Parsha has dots in it. Lonu l'chol manenu. There are dots on top of the letters. These are not crowns. The crowns, the kotorot, is a different Indian completely. And as I discussed with you, the letters Shin, Ayin, Tes, Nun, Zayin, Gimel, Tzadi require crowns. And according to many poskim, if the crowns are not present, if the Sefer Torah doesn't have the crowns to those letters, so then the Torah is not kosher. What about these dots, though? Rashi already discusses them. That we have a message that we learn from them. But what if you have a Sefer Torah without the dots? Is that like having a Sefer Torah without the crowns? So naturally, there are different views of the matter. One of the views is that the dots are more than the crowns. Because the dots were put there by Moshe for emphasis. Where the crowns, Moshe didn't put heaven, so to speak, when the Torah was given to Moshe, was given with crowns. So that when the original Torah was given to Moshe, it had crowns, but not dots. And Moshe is the one that added the dots. And therefore that has this type of importance to it, that if the dots are not present, then the Torah also is imperfect. It's not what it should be. There are other poskim who hold that the Torah is certainly valid even without the dots. And it depends what we do with the dots. So Rashi says a drash on it. Other Meforshim say a drash on it. But the truth of the matter is that the dots remain mysterious to us. Why here? Why are these dots so important? So most of the Meforshim say that that's the whole idea of Lonu Levonenu, Masotet Kol Divrei HaTorah Hazot. What we do is Levonenu also. It's for future generations. And the upholding of tradition is not only for ourselves, but it's a manner of transmitting the tradition and making it alive, that it goes from one generation to the next. The symbol of that are the dots in Parshas Nitzavim that are over the letters of Lonu Levonenu. They speak to us and they speak to our children, to generations that are yet to come, that we will not see. La'asot es kol divrei HaTorah hazot. To solidify within us the understanding and the obligation that we are to keep the Torah going. That's not static. It's not a law book that you put aside on the bookshelf and leave it there. But it's a way of life that has to be transmitted from one generation to another. And that Moshe wanted to emphasize it. And that's one of the ideas as to why the dots are present over those words in that pasuk. Rabbi Hanania ben Akash Omer Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zaken Yisrael. Adonai Chavei Zaman Tzidko Yagdil Torah V'Yadir.
יתברך, ישתבח, יתברך, מתנשא מתתיו, יתעלה, יתעלה,